Welcome to Bed Crime Stories podcast. I'm your host, T, and if true crime is your jam, and like me, you enjoy delving into unsolved cases, trying to figure out who done it, please consider subscribing. Also, if you find value in my content, please do me a favor and hit that like button. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another video, as Michelle After Dark says. Not much has officially happened lately in the Summer Wells case. Everyone's waiting for Don Wells to either get out of the clink or be sent to Utah to face the music for the essay he admitted to committing against his stepsisters. Candace Bly did post a bizarre nighttime video on her Facebook where all you can see is darkness and all you can hear is breathing and the sounds of a summer evening. I always feel like she's trying to convey some symbolic message in these odd, dark, voiceless videos. She posted another one like this months ago, and it appeared to be at the fishing hole at night. And the message, at least in my mind, didn't feel like something positive or hopeful. It's also possible that when she does this, she wants to stir us all up so that we spend a lot of time trying to analyze it when maybe it has zero meaning. A few days ago, Don's stepsisters, Mary and Jeannie, turned up on the interview room to share a very thought-out theory that they came up with regarding what they think may have happened to make summer, in Don's words, get gone. It was clear that they'd spent much time over the past year poring over every interview that Don and Candace have ever done, all the known details about June 15th, and anything else that they could get their hands on. What makes their theory so compelling to me is that they know Don Wells. They lived with him as children. They know the things Don continues to say to their dementia-stricken father, Don Wells Sr. I think we've got to at least consider their theory because they know Don personally. And honestly, I don't think the 12 to 18-year-old Don Wells in the past that they knew is really all that different to the 58-year-old Don Wells of today. Doing hardcore drugs will do that to a person, stop their maturation, and result in a nearly 60-year-old man who talks and acts a lot like a teenager. The live on the interview room was the first time, at least that I'm aware of, that anyone has seen Don's stepsister, Jeannie. We've heard her name, we've been awed by her courage, we've been grateful to her for sharing her story with law enforcement as soon as she heard that 5-year-old Summer was missing. But we've never seen her face or heard her speak. She was poised and well-spoken, nothing like her stepbrother, Don. What's particularly fascinating about the theory that they proposed is that in it, no one mentioned in the events of June 15th other than Don and Candace would have been lying when they said what they said about that day. In their theory, everyone from H to Grandis could be telling the truth. They believed that Don and Candace had a plan for June 15th and that it involved handing Summer over to someone as payment for a drug debt. Before I get into their theory and my thoughts on it, let me share that the two sisters were able to confirm that Don Wells did in fact once stand on a sidewalk with his baby boy, Don Wells Jr., to try and sell the child for drug money. All I can say to that is, if he can do that once, he's capable of doing it again. That 18-year-old brain is still in there with the same thoughts and the same impulses and the same addictions. Don's sisters explained that Don was mainlining drugs, meaning injecting drugs intravenously. The sisters weren't sure if it was cocaine or heroin, but said Don definitely had track marks all up and down his arms. Jeannie said that when Don is on drugs like that, he doesn't care about anything but getting the next fix. Chris McDonough described that behavior as chasing the needle. The sisters said that Don stole their parents' wedding rings. I would bet he pawned them for cash to buy more drugs. On another occasion, Don went from relative house to relative house, stealing all their lawnmowers. Mary said she and her husband even took to rigging up their lawnmower to catch Don in the act, and they were successful because sure enough, he turned up at night to nab their lawnmower. I think it's fairly clear that Don Wells may suffer from something called addictive personality disorder. Remember when Dudley Agin talked about how Don was constantly going on and on about meth? That's the type of thing people with this disorder do. They become extremely passionate about something, in this case, highly addictive illicit drug, and they develop an obsession over it. Dudley said that all Don talked about each and every day was meth. I'm not a psychologist and I don't pretend to be one, but that's just my opinion. I think it's possible. One of the problems with Don Wells is that no one in his family, especially his biological father, was willing to press charges against him for these crimes. They didn't want to get Don in deeper trouble with the law than he already was in. I know from personal experience that it's hard to press charges against a family member. It's even hard to just call the police to the house on them. My relative once got a hold of my father's social security number, and then he got a fake ID and posed as my father to get a credit card from a large store. Actually, it was Sears, I'll just tell you that. This relative then traveled to several Sears stores in the state where we live, and he bought expensive items like fine jewelry and TVs. Caught with this relative on the security cameras was his drug dealer. When this person made it to like the third Sears store, the people monitoring this stuff called my dad's home phone number to speak with him and see if he was actually the person buying all this pricey stuff. Well, my dad was shocked and upset. He was worried he was going to be held liable for thousands of dollars of purchases. He even had to go down to a police station, and when asked if he would press charges, my dad had a very hard time. It was painful for him. The thousands of dollars in purchases would have been a felony charge. It goes against a parent's instincts, I think, to throw their kid under the bus with the law. So while it feels easy to sling mud at Don Wells Sr. for not standing up for his stepdaughters when they told him and their mother about Don's SA, and for continuing to bail his perpetually troubled son out every time he landed in jail, we have to say, there by the grace of God go I. It's not easy to have a relative with this level of addiction issues and such troubles. Don has said he spent much of his young life behind bars, and he probably picked up tricks of the trade from his cellies along the way. That probably didn't help him to grow up and become a law-abiding citizen. It likely had the opposite effect. When Don went to Utah that time, he went there for work, and then he wanted to check out whether or not he should move the family back to Utah. According to Mary, who was visiting her mother and her father frequently while Don was there, she witnessed Don pressuring her father, to leave him the family home in his will, paying no mind to the fact that his stepmother also lives in that home. Mary witnessed Don trying to get money out of their dad pretty much every day he was there. She said Don was fighting physically with their father, trying to get him to leave him that house. Don told his dad that he deserved it. And apparently Candace put something on her Facebook around that time saying that she and Don were going to be selling their house in Beach Creek. Jeannie thought that Don and Candace had a plan that was quickly put together to get out of Tennessee in order to quickly flee something. Don knew that his father was having major health issues. Jeannie believes that Don was planning to go to Utah and take care of Don Sr. until he died, much like what Don did with his mother, Karen Goad. That's how he managed to get ownership over the 11-acre property in Beech Creek. In Jeannie and Mary's opinions, Don was there in Utah to get money and to try to get his hands on that house. Mary said that she and her husband were at the house one night, and Don was going into his father's bedroom and screaming and yelling at him. It was so bad that Mary's husband had to intervene and tell Don that he shouldn't be yelling at his father in his dad's condition. To me, knowing that Don Sr. has dementia and that he's older, Don was committing elder abuse. It's shocking that the key person who protected Don over the years, his dad, is now the object of Don's venom. My father is in much the same situation with my relative. Although he's helped my relative so much, this relative still believes my dad owes him for something. He doesn't say what that something is. It's just that my dad owes him. Mary and Jeannie believed that Don's plan was to get their father to turn the deed over to him and then move Candace and the kids to Utah, possibly to escape something in Tennessee. The part about escaping something in Tennessee really caught my attention. Was there a reason that Don needed to get away from Rogersville? Was he concerned about his safety there? Or is the story about one of his kids allegedly getting into trouble the reason Don wanted out of Tennessee and he wanted to get out quickly? Upon hearing this, I had to wonder about when Don and Candace turned up at 110 Ben Hill Road to allegedly care for Don's ailing mother, Karen Goad. Did they go there because they wanted to get their hands on the deed to the 11-acre property? Karen has 2 other children in addition to Don, daughters Sonia and Heidi. Looks like Don wanted to beat them out for that property. I could swear that someone in Beech Creek said that Karen Goad was being driven crazy by having Don in her home. If Don thinks it's acceptable to berate his elderly father who has memory problems, it's not a stretch to think that he would have pressured his mother and whoever else held the deed to 110 Ben Hill Road to sign it over to him. From what Mary and Jeannie say, Don thinks his dad owes him the house. It sounds like Don plays on his father's guilt. Maybe Don Sr. feels bad about Don and Sonia having to see their parents' marriage dissolve. Or maybe he feels bad because Don and Sonia were excessively mistreated by their mother's second husband. That wasn't William Goad, by the way. So when Don failed to get his dad to leave him the house in Utah, he wasn't able to make that escape from Tennessee. Maybe that's when Don concocted another plan to evade whatever he might have allegedly been trying to flee in Tennessee. Could that be a significant drug debt? As Jeannie pointed out, Don was said to have driven the red Subaru on June 15th of 2021, the day Summer vanished. Don, when asked about driving that red Subaru, said in an interview that he'd been driving it for several weeks because the $600 payments a month were large and that he might as well enjoy it. But Dudley Agin, Don's co-worker, said that June 14th was the first time that he saw Don drive the Subaru to work. So if we believe Dudley, Don was likely lying about driving it for several weeks. Jeannie and Mary believe that Don fired Dudley on June 14th because he had a plan to carry out the next day, on June 15th. And he didn't want Dudley around being a witness to his actions that day. They pointed out that the Subaru has air conditioning, it would be a better ride, and it would get Don wherever he was going faster. In their theory, Don knew that he wasn't going to do any drywalling on June 15th, so he didn't need to worry about messing up the Subaru at work. In Mary and Jeannie's theory, they believed Don and Candace knew that they were going to be handing Summer off on June 15th to some other party, most likely to pay off a drug debt. When the sisters asked their father, Don Wells Sr., what he thinks happened to Summer, he said that he thinks it could be down to owing money to a drug dealer or wanting to buy more drugs. Mary said that their older brother also said that he thinks their theory is possible. Thus, 4 of Don's family members all believe that it's likely, or at least possible, that Summer's disappearance was because of some type of drug debt. That is their primary theory. I was thinking that maybe if there were drug dealers threatening Don, maybe they said to him, "It's either your life or you hand over your daughter." Knowing that Summer was Don's pride and joy, I personally think the stakes would have had to have been pretty darn high for him to sacrifice her. The threat of someone taking his life, in my opinion, would be great enough to push Don into giving up Summer. The sisters believed that if Don was stealing Tucker's tools and reselling them, as Dudley Agin has said, that he's capable of selling Summer. When the sisters were describing this, I thought back to Candace's reaction on Dr. Phil when the cornbread mafia was mentioned. Remember how upset she got? Maybe in her sober moments, because she was sober on that show, she has a conscience, and it's too painful to think about handing over Summer to criminals who might hurt her. Now, Mary and Jeannie also said that when Don is on drugs like meth, like cocaine, like heroin, he will do anything to get the next fix. So in the sisters' theory, they think that maybe Candace and Don came up with the idea of getting Grandis a new phone, a burner phone, in exchange for going to the Holston Valley Medical Center on June 15th to get a prescription for pain pills. But that doesn't make a ton of sense because she could be picked up for drunk driving, she could be taken in when the police arrived if they saw that she was high. But of course, Candace also hasn't copped to drinking any Twisted Tea that day or vaping anything other than nicotine. Then I started thinking, well, maybe Don gave Candace permission to get a little high on June 15th with H, because he knew that even though Candace has said she didn't want any daughters and doesn't like kids, she said that to Dudley Agin, it would be emotionally difficult on some level, however minor, to hand Summer over to people who had evil intentions. I also started to think that maybe Candace made the swimming video of Summer to show what a good parent she was that day, giving Summer some fun in the water, making sure her child had some activity to get rid of all that energy little ones have. Mary and Jeannie believed that the plan included having Grandis take some of the newly picked up pain meds to get sleepy and maybe take a nap. Then, as Grandis slept, Candace could engage the kids in a game of hide-and-seek, and while the boys had their eyes closed, she could have snuck Summer down to that shed and left her there for whoever was coming to pick her up. They cited the fact that Don said that the first place he went to when he got home that day was to that shed. Maybe he was going there to make sure there was no evidence left there, and make sure Summer was not in the shed. Mary and Jeannie also talked about the long-sleeved outfit that Summer is seen wearing in the video and the photo where she's sitting in the back seat of the Silverado. That was supposed to be her outfit for the first day of school. Did Candace put that outfit on Summer because she knew that the 5-year-old was going to be heading off on a trip somewhere and she couldn't be in a wet bathing suit for that journey? And that text that H allegedly saw, the one that said, "It's done," maybe that was from whoever came to the shed to pick Summer up. Jeannie and Mary also wove in the scream that Jody Sue Brown and her kids claim they heard on the afternoon of June 15th. The sisters think that maybe Summer made that noise when a stranger really did pull up and take her out of the shed. Could that have been the scream/animal sound that Brown and her kids said they heard that afternoon? Chris McDonough seemed to think that the theory was interesting, but he may have just been pretending to make the sisters feel good about it. I'm not sure how plausible he thinks their theory is. He seemed to sort of indicate that, but he never came out and really said it, at least that I saw. The sisters noted how Don went straight to the abduction theory from day one. Maybe he felt that by saying that, he was being somewhat truthful, and maybe that could help him get a passing score on a polygraph, or to be shown at least to be being truthful. Jeannie and Mary also noted how emphatic Don and Candace were that Summer would never leave the property on her own accord. So now all my thoughts about Summer's fate are once again up in the air. If the people who actually know Don Wells think that this is a good possibility, then I have to consider it. And if Summer was handed off in this manner, that would mean that maybe, just maybe, she's still alive. I know she'd be traumatized, but if she were found to be alive, which would be an absolute miracle at this point, maybe with tons of therapy to try and undo the damage, she could go on to have a decent life. I don't know. Is this theory plausible, or do you think it's crazy? Let me know in the comments. By the way, if you're interested in new cases, I'm also covering Dylan Round's disappearance, and I'm about to do a video about missing 19-year-old Aiden Clune, who disappeared in the same area. His disappearance hasn't gotten much attention, and like Dylan, he's still missing. Before you go, please hit that like button and note that I'm now offering memberships if you want to find a way to support my channel. I'm not one to e-bag or put banners across my channel to my PayPal, but I am trying to do this to make a living, so everything helps. Until the next time on Bed Crime Stories.